guys, how's it going? I'm back with another 10 metal bands you haven't heard but should. My series where I just talk about cool stuff from the underground for you to go and check out. Got a nice mix of stuff, black and death mainly, I think almost entirely actually. So, without further ado, the first band is Cidesphere. The artwork's really hard to see because it's kind of dark, but it's really cool artwork. I assume Geiger or similar from Switzerland. Really cool album if you like melodic death. Now, I know that kind of term may instantly throw a lot of people. I'm not talking your kind of metalcore with that name. I'm more referring to bands like At the Gates, early stuff, the Black Dahlia Murder, if you like them. But also some early stuff like Hypocrisies, Better Works, the same with In Flames, the first 3 or 4 albums. Dark Tranquility, again, very much back in the day, kind of early Gothenburg scene, very kind of picky, catchy riffs, but the wimpy stuff is kind of cut. So if you like that kind of stuff, check out Cidesphere. They do a really good job of it, and it's interesting because Swedeath seems so popular, yet so few bands do the Gothenburg sound justice, and Cidesphere really do. Next up, we have the Brimstone Clergy. That was on Testimony Records, by the way, from Germany. Next up, we have Serpents on War Anthem Records with the Brimstone Clergy. Now, this is pretty much just straight up black metal, second wave kind of style black metal. So if you enjoy the entry kind of black metal bands like Vatane, Shooter, Torquay, 1349, all those kinds of bands that we all know and love, then definitely check out Serpents. Really interesting album. It's got some kind of more unique and eerie aspects as well than a lot of bands doing that sound. They've definitely got some more atmospheric parts and melodic parts, but also they kind of bring it back to a very old school kind of sound, which is really nice. And now we have Ymir from Finland. This is the debut album. It's, as you can see, very old school looking. Apologies again for that glare. This is Werewolf Records. Now, Emir have this kind of very pagan black metal feel that is reminiscent of early Enslaved, those kinds of bands, but also more modern Finnish bands like Antimateria, who I've talked about on here before. So that kind of pagan black metal meets some dungeon synthy elements, and it's really hard to show these album covers. Yeah, a lot of atmospheric and ambient passages, but there's still tons of killer riffs. It's not just relying on that kind of flowy sound. It's really strong atmospheric pagan black metal. And now we have some death metal in the form of Skelethal from France, their new album of HM2 style death metal on Hell's Headbangers Records. Now, unlike a lot of the HM2 death metal bands, they're not completely reliant on D beats and catchy grooves, though there are plenty. There's a lot of kind of murkier riffs, some Florida death metal creeping in there, some kind of doomier parts, so a lot of mid-tempo stuff akin to like Benediction and Bolt Thrower from the UK. There's a nice mix of just loads of good old school death metal channeled on this album called Unveiling the Threshold. This is their new one. Their previous album is also really good. The name escapes me, but it's also on Hell's Headbangers. But yeah, Skelethal, definitely some interesting old school death metal who use the HM2 to do something a bit different, which is nice. Now, we do have something that's not black or death metal, Enforcer, who I guess are a bigger band now, with their last album that was a bit more radio rock almost, but still with that heavy metal touch. But this is just pure heavy speed metal called Diamonds on Metal Blade Records, I believe. Oh no, it's Earache, sorry, completely got that wrong. The opening track, Midnight Vice, if you like bands like Accept and my brain has completely gone blank, and Priest and all the classics, Angel Witch and stuff, you'll definitely find yourself digging this. It's very catchy and anthemic, but it's powerful, it's driven, it's not all just kind of pure 80s nostalgia. There's definitely something special about Enforcer on this album that's really worth digging into. And now, some more HM2 death metal, where you have Spiritual Holocaust. This is on More Hate Productions. They kindly sent me their album all the way from Finland. Now, being Finnish, they're of course very good musicians, but yeah, they go more for the Swedish sound than the Finnish sound with the kind of HM2s, a lot of groove and D beats. There's definitely some Finnish characteristic on here, but it's not so much like your crypts, your convulse, sentence, funebrae. It's definitely more like your dismembers and entrails and grave and such. But yeah, really killer album, cool artwork, and yeah, if you like old school death metal the Swedish way, but done by Finnish people, check out Spiritual Holocaust. Next up, we have Insision, who are real Swedes, who don't play Swedish death metal in the way you expect. My friend Steve was kind enough to give me this when I ran into him in a record shop in a socially distant setting here. But this is really cool. The bass player is Daniel Ekeroth, who wrote the Swedish death metal book. Amazing book. Just side note. This is much more kind of brutal death metal, such like Amputated and Cerebral Bore and those kinds of bands. There's definitely a Swedish feel to it, but it's more influenced by, much like the early Swedish bands, the influences from hardcore and grindcore. But there's not that, it doesn't end up sounding like deathcore. It's just more straight brutal death metal, like, you know, Cannibal Corpse is even a good reference point, because they definitely have that low-tuned, kind of growly, chuggy, guttural feel. But yeah, if you like brutal death metal that doesn't just sound like slam and gore grind and all that kind of stuff, Incision's definitely worth a listen, because they have riffs, which is what we're all here for, right? And now, talking of riffs, we have Illkynja from Iceland with their debut album, Seiti Salarinna. I have no idea how to speak Icelandic, so you guys are going to have to deal with that. We have this amazing cover art that's very eye-catching, and on this album, it's kind of typical for Icelandic black metal in that it's very dissonant and sparse and kind of unpredictable. Lots of like volatile moments where the drums are kind of rocky and then just go into these huge blast beats. There's these really psychedelic riffs and discordant vocals. If you like the Andevald album that was my album of the year last year, and stuff like Hrai and Skafe and Wormlust, then this is definitely worth checking out. This really interesting band, and once again, Iceland has just nailed it. This one is on Narbentaga Produktionen from Germany, who I had a couple things from in the last video, the Gjaldur and Night Fighter tapes. Yeah, really good album, really good Icelandic black metal, as always apparently. Now we have some Finnish black metal from Soulseller Records. In fact, these next two releases are from Soulseller, whose PR Sure Shot Works was kind enough to, as they often do, send me some killer stuff. Now, Sarvekas, I was thinking Finnish black metal, you know, Behexen, Horner, Sargeist, the classics, and, well, maybe not Beharit, because they're very different sounds. No one sounds like Beharit, other than maybe Archscope, but let's not get into that debate. Now, this I was expecting some very kind of melodic, typically Finnish black metal, which is certainly present to a degree. But what interested me here, and that really made it stand out, was the more kind of dissonant, sparse guitar works. I'm using those words a lot, but my vocabulary is apparently limited today, and you guys are going to have to deal with that. This artwork really jumped out at me too. This really, really stunning piece, and the logo layout is just, it looks quite different. It doesn't necessarily look like a typical black metal album. Flying booklet there. But yeah, the influence of potentially Icelandic black metal is present here, because they have those kind of Sinmara-esque guitar passages that break up the faster parts really nicely and give a very interesting EP. It's only about 20 minutes. It's a very good 20 minutes, all high quality, no filler shit. Definitely worth a listen. And now, finally, we have the last, which is Serpentis Oath, their new album, also on Soulseller Records, called Nihil. Now, if you, again, much like I said about the Serpents album, we have a very serpentine video here. If you like the classic Norwegian and Swedish style black metal, then this will certainly appeal. There is some other stuff like Magua style bits creeping into this that give it that kind of hazy, kind of otherworldly feel. But there's definitely a huge influence of 90s Scandinavian black metal is the dominant driving force on this album, and they do it really well. It's 9 tracks, about just over half an hour from what I recall listening to a couple days ago. And yeah, if you like old school kind of, not first wave, like old school as it, we're talking second wave here, then definitely check this one out. It's really killer. And that is 10 more metal bands you haven't heard but should. I hope you enjoy and support the bands and labels talked about in this video. As mentioned in the last video, for anyone who didn't catch it, I've got a web store now for Natsculpt merch. So you're welcome to check that out. The link's in the bio, or the description rather, as is the link to the new fanzine me and my other half have started. So if you like print fanzines, it's a free download PDF. Print copies for you and your friends. Spread the word. The second issue's underway. And I'm a fucking idiot and don't have the stickers in reach, but we have a really cool logo now. And yeah, things are going good on that front. So if you want to check out that, be my guest. Spread the word, if you will. And until next time, stay metal.